wanted to make this short video today just to answer a few questions that people might have about mediation. So Antonia is going to ask me some questions, and I hope that I will be able to answer them.
Great, thanks, Hero. So I've just had a think, and I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about what things you can mediate about.
Okay, well, I'm an all issues mediator, so I'm qualified to mediate about financial issues and about children issues. So it can be anything, unmarried couples dealing with a house that they own together, to divorce and other issues like that. And with children, it can be any sort of issues in relation to children, leave to remove the children to another country, contact arrangements, and really mediation is very flexible. So you can deal with all of the issues at the same time. And it's really led by the couple and how they want to deal with each session on an ongoing basis.
Great. So on that basis, if you're mediating with a couple who want to try and sort out their children issues and their financial issues, what are normally the types of documents that you'd ask them to provide? Or what kind of questions would you ask them?
So whenever you're mediating about finances, it's really important that you have full financial disclosure. So we usually get people to complete a Form E, but only up to page 19. So it's only the factual part of the form, and to produce all the supporting documents that go with that. So it's things like your last 3 payslips, your year's worth of bank statements, evidence of the mortgage on your property, and that sort of document. And then once we're talking about the finances, if I see that there's any more questions that anyone has, or if there is more information that I need to be able to help them, I will ask them to produce that information.
And so once you have those kinds of documents in front of you, what are the sorts of questions that you then ask people? And what can couples expect who go into mediation to be asked about, and what will they not be asked about or told?
So one of the things that's often really important in a mediation is what do people need? So after they're living in 2 separate houses, what do they need? So we might look at property prices in their area, and we might look at what their costs will be when they're both living in separate houses. So I often ask questions about their needs, and maybe even get them both to go away together and come back with property particulars that they think would work for each other and for them.
And can you mediate with a couple and their lawyers at the same time?
Yes, so that is called hybrid mediation, and the lawyers can be involved really as much or as little as the parties want them to be involved. But
Right.
they can be in on the sessions as well with us.
And so when you do the sessions, do you mainly do them over Zoom now, or do you find that doing stuff in person is more beneficial, or does it work the same?
So it's really up to the couple how they want to do it. I will do either way. Nowadays, people tend to prefer to do them over Zoom just because it's less time consuming than going somewhere and meeting. I personally think it can be just as effective over Zoom. I've also done quite a lot for couples who are living abroad. So it's the only way that they are able to mediate with an English qualified mediator. And I find it can be just as effective. And in some ways, it's a little bit less emotional than all being in the same room.
Right, yeah. So, if you have a couple and they've, produced their property particulars and their financial disclosure, and they're just not able to kind of meet each other in the middle, what are the kind of things that you do to assist people that probably they wouldn't get assistance with if they weren't mediating?
So as everything in the mediation sessions is without prejudice, people can feel able to talk about different options and different proposals that they have for the future. So we might look at some different options. So for example, one option is, the family home is sold and both people buy other properties. So we'd look at how that would work. and then reality test it and say, okay, what would this leave you with? What would this leave you with? And we might also reality test another option, which is one of them stays in the family home and the other person and buys the other person out. And then we'd reality test that. And it's quite important that both people are able to listen to the other person's proposals. And then often it sort of becomes apparent as you're talking with the couple that one of the options is probably going to be easier for them to live with than the other.
Yeah. Okay. So you say that everything in mediation is without prejudice. Does that include all of the financial disclosure?
Yes, so actually the financial disclosure isn't without prejudice. And the
Right.
reason for that is so that if the mediation does break down and you need to go to lawyers afterwards, you don't have to do it all again.
Right.
So it saves costs. You've done all the disclosure process already.
And you just talking about if the mediation breaks down, what are the kind of circumstances where you think the mediation is not appropriate? Or, for example, you get to a certain, when do you know that it's time to stop mediating?
So in some situations, you can have reality tested lots of different options, and neither party is willing to give in or to make a compromise. So, for example, it might be a relocation. So you both have listened to the different options, but one person is adamant they want to relocate, the other person is adamant they won't allow it. Even in those sort of situations, even though the mediation breaks down, it can often be really useful for the parties because they've listened to what the other person has to say.
Yeah.
And they have a bit more of an understanding about why that person isn't agreeing to it, rather than thinking that they're being difficult for the sake of it. So sometimes, there's not, you might have gained something from the mediation anyway, even if you haven't necessarily agreed everything.
So it's good to kind of give it a go before you go to court.
I think it's good to try it if you can, because you'll save yourself a lot of time and money and emotional stress. But even if it does break down at some point, you will have hopefully done all your financial disclosure more cheaply, and you will know where the issues are and maybe have narrowed down some of the issues that are between you.
Yeah. So kind of talking about saving time and money, how long does mediation take? Is there kind of like a standard procedure that you have to go through? How long are the sessions?
So before you can start, we have to have individual sessions with each party on their own. And that's a screening session just to make sure that mediation is an appropriate process. And then you'll have the joint sessions. The individual sessions are an hour long each, roughly. And then the joint sessions are usually about an hour and a half, but sometimes they can go on for longer. You normally have around 3 to 5 joint sessions. In terms of the time that it takes to do those, sometimes they can be once a week. Sometimes if you've got to go away and collate a lot of financial information, more than a week. So we might say, okay, we're going to fix it. I usually like to fix a date so that people have a timetable and something to work towards. Okay, we're going to meet back in 3 weeks with all our financial information.
Right.
But it's much quicker than the court process.
Yeah, exactly. And also much cheaper, I guess, than speaking to two sets of lawyers, barristers going to court. So yeah, I think that pretty much of all of the questions that I had, unless there was anything else that you wanted to mention.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the costs. So my charges are £400 for an hour plus VAT, but that cost can be split between the parties. So you'd just be paying £200 each, which does make it a lot cheaper than going through a court process.
Right. Yeah. Great.
Great.
Okay.
Well,
Sarah,
thanks very much.
thanks.